This is a Waldorf inspired story. It's called The Green Button. Once upon a time, there lived an old man. His cottage stood on the edge of the forest, and he lived by himself, and he kept everything tidy. One day in the autumn, he saw that the wind had brought down the leaves. "My garden is untidy," he said. "I must gather the leaves together." He put on his jacket and cap and boots and went outside. First, he raked the lawn, then he swept the path. Suddenly, he heard the clink of metal. He bent down, parted the leaves, and found a small green button. He picked it up and wondered where it had come from. Then he slipped it into his pocket and said, "That will be just right for my shirt where the top button is missing." He put his tools into his shed, and after supper, he fetched the sewing basket and his shirt and sewed the button on firmly and said, "There, that will stop the wind blowing down my neck." He laid the shirt on the chair by his bed and went to sleep. In the middle of the night, he was awakened by a loud bang on the door. He got out of the bed and opened the window. It was so dark that he could see nothing, but he heard a voice which shouted, "Give me back my button." The old man quietly shut the window and went back to bed. 2 nights later, he was awakened again. But this time, it was by a knock, not a bang on his door. He went downstairs and opened it. There stood a little man clad from top to toe in green, and the old man noticed that the top button was missing from his coat. The little man pushed a sack towards the old man and said, "Here you are. Now give me back my button." The old man opened the sack and saw that it was full of toadstools. Then he said gently, "These are no good to me. You keep the toadstools and I will keep the button." The old man quietly closed the door and went back to bed. A week went by, and the old man washed his clothes and the shirt with green button too. He was hanging the washing on the line when he felt that someone stood behind him. He went on with his work and was just putting the last peg on the shirt when he heard a quiet voice say, "Please, give me back my button." The old man turned round and said, "Now that you've asked me quietly, of course, I will give you back your button. Just wait while I fetch my scissors." Soon he was back with the scissors, snipped off the button, and handed it to the little green man. "Thank you," he said. "You see, without it the wind blows down my neck." "Yes, I know," said the old man. "I'm sure I can find another one for my shirt." The little green man went happily back to the forest, and the old man went happily indoors. A few days, the old man awoke one night and found his room as bright as day. He got out of bed and looked out of the window. There in the sky, he saw the round full moon, and when he looked down into his garden, he saw a round moon on his lawn. He quietly shut the window and went back to bed. In the morning, there on the lawn was a moon of mushrooms. He went down and picked 3 of the largest for his breakfast. Then he stood up and called out, "Thank you, little green man. Thank you for the mushrooms." The little green man was standing behind the hedge and he smiled. From that day on, the old man found a moon of mushrooms on his lawn every year, and when he picked the first three, he always stood up and said, "Thank you, little green man. Thank you for the mushrooms." And the little green man was always nearby and smiled and returned happily to the forest. Thank you for listening to Tosuno by Sneha.